Good morning and welcome to Coffee with Regina. Oh, cool cup.
Thank you.
This morning I have my good friend Victoria Chai with me, and oh my gosh, we have so much to talk about. Yes, but before we get to that, first off, welcome.
Thank you.
And
Thank you
let
for
me
having me.
go in, and I have your little bio here. And you
Mhm.
are the founder. Victoria is the founder of Chrisidence Coaching. And we're going to talk about that in a sec. Victoria, she helps introverted female entrepreneurs, I'm one of those, find their authentic voice and communicate with confidence. She is a communications expert with over 30 years of experience in mentoring and guiding individuals and groups to confident and effective communication. And communication is the number one life skill that everybody needs to master. It's all about
Yeah,
communication, right?
yeah. And it's funny you should say they need to master it. Because I think that most people are under the impression that what they've got is what they've got, and they're sort of stuck there. And I know that you, as a person with a growth mindset, and when we, as entrepreneurs and as women, right, we can continue to grow for our whole lives. So there's always a way to kind of tweak things, and it's not that anything you're doing is necessarily wrong, and we can be more effective, more articulate, and more concise, which for me, that's the power place. That's that core of power where you stand in it and you say, I know who I am, I know what I can do, I am here.
And that I love how that ties into the new name of your company, because you and
Yeah.
I are both doing this rebranding thing right now with our new stuff, with me going with the standout and the AI, and you with Chrisidence. Tell us about Chrisidence.
Yes. So I worked with some really good friends at J-Rise Branding. And what they did was they started out with me to say, who is your one person? Because that's where you have to start, right? And I said, you know what? The me that I was is my one person. So I was a kind of introvert where if you asked me to introduce myself in a class, I thought this is when I throw up or I run out of the class or I cry. Literally just saying my name was so stressful for me, not even to get up and talk in front of people. And so I thought, you know what? I want to work with people who were like me. I'm still an introvert. However, I have new tools in my tool belt that I can use. So it was a metamorphosis from that frightened, crying, nauseous girl, really, to the woman I am now, where I can get up. I still get nervous. So that's where the part of it is. It's a chrysalis that a butterfly goes into to become.
Love
And
that.
then the outcome is confidence, right? Because that's where we all want to be. And people say to me, wow, you're really good at this. This comes naturally to me. I say, yeah, it comes naturally to me after 30 years of working on it. So is that well, it feels natural now, but I wasn't born this way, right? This was a process. And I know you and I have had many discussions because you are maybe not as introverted as I am, because you probably didn't get sick, maybe, I don't know. But we've discussed how you become, and you're an entrepreneur, and you have your unicorn factor, and that's embracing your uniqueness. And that's a sense of confidence as well. We
Hmm.
have that in common. And so I think that the Chrisidence idea of Chrisidence to me is a nurturing and a becoming.
I absolutely love that new name, and I love the meaning behind it, because you're absolutely right. And yes, I was the type of person who used to throw up before I got on stage. So no, I was right there with you. Again, same thing. It's been many, many years, and part of those years, way back when I did Toastmasters for a bunch of years, and all kinds of things, because you know, I basically was, when I first started my first business over 20 years ago, 25 about 25 years ago now. I had to get up in front of networking people. So everything was like networking in these groups. And
Mhm.
I would stand up, want to throw up, and say something. And literally I would sit down not remembering what I said because I was so nervous. So I wouldn't remember a word that came out of my mouth. And so a friend of mine way back when said, hey, check out this Toastmasters thing. So I was like, all right, let me
Mhm.
try Toastmasters. And I went there. And of course, the first few years in Toastmasters, it took me a while to ramp up with that too.
Yeah.
And then I finally got a little bit more comfortable. So I got to the point where, as an introvert, because I am an introvert as well, and so I finally got to the point where I could get up and speak and remember what I said, but I would still sit down and my entire body would be shaking.
Mhm. Yeah,
So
yeah.
the nerves were still there, but it's like I was like,
Mm.
oh, I'm making progress. At least I remember what I said.
Yeah, yeah. It's funny, somebody was talking to me about Toastmasters this morning. I just came from a networking event, actually, and they were talking about Toastmasters, and I think Toastmasters has its purpose.
Mhm.
And I think for the truly terrified introvert, it's sort of trial by fire, and it might chase somebody away. You were very courageous to push through that. And I feel like when we talk about being a coach or a consultant, and for example, I know that you helped me to become comfortable with AI when I wanted to like get some salt and some holy water anytime somebody talked about it, And so I worked with you for months in your program, which was so helpful to me because now I understand the tool nature of it and I understand the nature of it in a way that I feel like it's a friendly thing. Right? Because you held my hand and the hand of our fellow group members in that program to bring us through step by step and say, you know what? Play with it, have fun with it, experiment with it. And so your style and my style, I think, are very similar. Because when I think about coaching somebody to go from being truly terrified to being confident, it's not just about go out there and do it. It's about you can do it and I've got your back. And I've got your hand, and it's okay to be afraid. And we can work on getting some of that nausea out of your system, right? Before I started my business, and retired from teaching full time about 2 years ago, I hadn't been on social media. Like I had nothing. So working with you a year later, I was still in that sort of terrified phase, right? So you really helped me to say AI is a tool and a friend and not a scary monster.
An AI is nothing but communication. And actually, when I was thinking out, I was actually thinking last night, I was like, oh, I'm talking to Victoria. And this week I've been talking about AI prompting out in the group. And that's our theme for the week is prompt engineering. And
Mhm.
the first thing I said about prompt engineering is nothing but communication. It is speaking to the tool. So it's actually a communication skill. So now that I know, because I know you're using some AI, here and there, and with that in mind, and being the communication, the human communication expert that you are, I'm curious about your thoughts on that.
Well, two things that have happened, interestingly enough, since I've met you. So I met you, I think, in October in Pennsylvania at Terry Levine's mastermind, right?
I think so.
Or
Or in the group before, yeah.
in the year before, but still really
Yeah.
our real relationship started then. And I think about how two shifts happened in my digital communications life because my oral communication skills, I rock the oral communication. I've worked on that really hard. And my written skills are very academic because I'm an academician, right? So I had to learn a new style of communicating to one, be on social media, and two, to work with AI. And that's something that I worked with you on and Terry on. So when you and I worked on the language of communication with prompts, one of the things that overlapped between with what I do with my students and my clients and what you're talking about is clarity, the details. So I just was on a call really early this morning with somebody, and my husband was overhearing it, and he said, "That was great." And I said, "What was great about it?" He said, "You clearly explained using all the words so there was no misunderstanding." So when I go to AI and I don't just say, "I want a topic." I say, "I am a communications expert who is a nurturing person leading people towards confidence. And I would like 6 possible topics for working on gaining presentation skills through the fear."
Perfect.
And
Perfect.
you brought me there. So I had to learn how to take what I do with, in conversation and put that into a prompt.
Mhm.
And then when I get that, then I learn from you that then I can take those 5 things and say, okay, can we expand on this one, adding the idea that my client is a woman who is an entrepreneur and an introvert.
Mhm.
So it's really there's so much overlap between what you're working with people in your group on, and you provide so much value. I mean, anyone who interacts with you is the luckiest person on the planet
Well,
because
I appreciate that, but I want this to be more about you
oh,
too.
I'm sorry. Okay.
I appreciate all of this, but I really, because you are a communication expert, and yeah, like I said, it's like, yes, I'm sitting over here, I'm grinning, I'm like, I am still playing this back and taking some of your phrases out for testimonials.
Oh, yes, yes. Haven't I given you a testimonial? I don't know. I feel like I did.
Right. So but as as we're talking about it, I want to hear more about what you're doing with your business and how you're helping people. So you said you were working with somebody this morning. I'm assuming that was a client.
Yes,
And
yes.
so who do you help? Do you help just people who want to be speakers? Do you help people that, that are just can't get out of their shell and they want to start a business, or, who do you help and how?
Well, as you said in the beginning, my focus right now, because I found my one person and I'm interacting with a lot of female entrepreneurs right now. So I'm working with introverted female entrepreneurs. And we know that when you own a business, and particularly when you're a solopreneur, you really need to go out and communicate with others in a way that is clear and confident. Because I don't know about you, but I'm not buying from somebody who's not sure.
There's
I'm
nothing like
just,
a wishy-washy salesperson.
oh no. And not even sales, just if they seem wishy-washy, like, oh, I kind of help people and I like when they can communicate better. And you're like, no. Um, so when I'm working with somebody, for example, I was working with a woman who not only was an introvert, but English was not her first language.
Mhm.
And so she's going to networking events and wants to sell her business. And she's an expert at her business, like you and I are experts at what we do. And we're not always experts at conveying that information in a way that is clear, concise, and confident.
Mhm.
So if you're at a networking event, right, and somebody says to you, what do? You don't say, well, I'm a unicorn, or I help people to use AI. It's not that interesting.
Mhm.
So I work with people on their stories. So how to tell a short story confidently, because if we're talking about ourselves, we're usually pretty confident.
Yeah.
So if I, for example, want to tell you about my business, and I'll say, well, when I was in my 20s, I was asked to get up and speak in front of a whole new school on my second day of work. And I sat at my desk and cried a puddle. And that was who I was then. And in fact, they were gracious enough to not to make me talk. And then about 3 weeks ago, I was in a group that I was working with. And it was my last day. And they said, would you sing a song for us? And I thought they were kidding. And they said, no, we'd like you to sing a song for us. And I sang a song without worrying about it, without worrying about being wrong, without being scared. And I was okay with that. That's a huge journey for me.
That's a huge journey for anybody. I mean, go back to the networking stuff. I am that networking person that when I first started networking, when I was talking
Yeah.
about that way back when, I would go to a Chamber of Commerce meeting and somebody would say, "Oh, hey, Regina, nice to meet you. What do you do?" Well, I have this computer company, and well, I fix computers.
Right. Right.
And that was literally what it sounded like.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I was
So,
like, I would walk out of those meetings beating myself up, going, "You idiot!" It was like you had the perfect opportunity in front of
right.
you, and you sounded like you had no clue what you were doing. What is up with
Right.
that? And it wasn't because I couldn't do it. It was because I was scared to death.
Yeah. And so when we can craft a short story, like I just told you, what was that,
Mhm.
a minute? But
Yeah.
it actually tells you about my journey and it makes you interested in what I do. So when I'm working with somebody, actually, I can use Dee Hampel as an example because when I was in Mexico with her, she was talking. So when I said make a story, she started selling, and I said, no, Dee, I want you to make a story about how it feels to get your product. And so she told us a story. So she crafted a story. I said, think about a time when you got a package that felt good. And she talked about how she received a package that said growling okay. And she said what it was her, I can't remember what, so somebody in her family, her grandmother had sent her a homemade bear that had a growl box in it. And the post office had heard the growling and didn't know what it was. And she said her joy and excitement about opening that box is what she wants her clients to feel. That personalization, that excitement of open. And I don't know about you, anytime I get a package, and even if I know what I ordered, I'm excited to open a package, right?
It's
So
true.
that's the kind of thing I work on. It's not so much about selling as about evoking emotion through your own stories and helping the other people to understand how you want them to feel.
Right.
So
Yeah, that makes perfect sense because people buy based on emotion. So people don't buy something because they really want it. They really buy based on emotion. It's about how it makes them feel. So opening that box, that joy, how it's going to make me
right.
feel when I get it. I talk about all the time about like when I'm working with clients, people don't buy a screwdriver because they want a screwdriver. They buy a screwdriver because they want to screw something maybe into the wall. They wanted to screw like a picture hanger into the wall so they can hang the picture that when they look at it every day, it makes them smile. It's the
Yes.
emotion behind it. So yeah, they have to get the tool, so they
Yeah.
buy it, but everything is bought based on emotion.
Yeah.
And what you're getting at and what I'm hearing here is, it's the communication of the emotion where so many people don't communicate the emotion, they communicate that need. Okay, I need a screwdriver. It was like,
Yeah.
okay, well, what do you need a screwdriver for? What is
Right.
the emotion behind it?
Right. Yeah. And I think the other thing is, so if I think of Chrysidents in my brand, and I think of, well, people, I think when they perceive introducing themselves, they think there's the perfect way. And what I talk about a lot is there is no perfect anything. And that's the beauty of us as humans. And so when you go out and I say, okay, let's work on a story for you. And then I say, okay, try it once. You go into a networking event, you're an introvert, just talk to one person. That's all I'm asking. And see how it feels. And when you're done with the story, say, hey, I'm working on this with my coach. What'd you think of the story? And that starts another dialogue, right?
Right.
They might ask questions. They might say, oh, that was really great. What else, and have that make you feel and have that make you start your business. So it's the idea that when we are introverts and we know we're going to have to talk to people and we want them to believe us, as we talk about that know, like, and trust.
Mm-hmm.
And confidence is the trust part. And knowing is the story part. And liking is the vulnerability part. That's how I perceive that.
I like that.
And so when we can do that, and the more we do it, so I'm not going to ask you to go out and go to give a speech. I want you to tell a minute long story or 2 minute long story. And then I say, it's an experiment. Let's go back. We talk about Thomas Edison. How many light bulbs did he go through? And how many years did it take me to get to where I am? Well, I did it by myself. I want to condense that 35 years into a much shorter period of time for my clients, because it doesn't have to take that long and it doesn't have to feel bad. And I like to keep the humor, and I know you like the humor.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm the first person to laugh at myself in any given situation. Like I make a mistake and I'm like, oh man, that's my human showing. Oh, that's funny. Right.
Yeah,
And so
absolutely.
we can see life as experimental. We can have the growth mindset. When we can see ourselves as a humorous experience, we're going to say, oh, I know I'm going to go back and tell Victoria what happened and how funny that was, or how great it was. And that's the next thing, is the celebration. Regina, we forget to celebrate ourselves. And so I want to celebrate every step. The fact that you went to the networking event and you tried it once is a win. You've already won. I don't care what you said. Right? So beginning small, you show up. And the only way to get to the points that you need to get to is to keep doing it, keep learning, keep growing, keep being human. And then you start to seem natural. I don't know if it's natural.
Keep trying those light bulbs.
Yeah,
Until you get one that works.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, that's part of the journey, the human journey. And if we forget to be human, so people want to seem perfect in their business, I really feel like people resonate with me more when I make a mistake. They're like, oh, well, if she can make a mistake and still be successful, I too can make success. I can be successful even making mistakes.
Right. And it makes you human. And that's that's the key. When you said human, that is it's that human behind it. And when we talk about communication, that was actually I'm not going to diss Toastmasters, because I think Toastmasters is a fabulous organization, especially if you're trying to learn how to get out of that, and
Yeah.
it's kind of like you immerse yourself into doing this stuff. One of the things that they do at Toastmasters is they count your ums, your ahs, your buts, your ands, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
To me, that's part of who my language is, and what my language is.
Yeah.
It's like, so I just said, they would count that and say, oh, you're not supposed to say that. That is part of humanizing who my communication, right?
Yes.
Because if you have no
Mhm.
pauses, the ums, the ahs, and stuff like it honestly, it doesn't sound human. I've listened to so many speeches from the quote unquote perfect speakers, that there's no ums, there's no ahs, no likes, no knows, none of that stuff is in there. And I'll
Yeah.
tell you, it's boring to me. I'm like, where's the human behind this? It sounds too polished. It
It's
doesn't,
robotic.
yeah, it doesn't feel like I'm connecting with that person, because I'm not
Yeah.
really seeing who that person really is. Because I'm guessing, if I see somebody on a stage and they speak like that, I'm guessing if I went backstage with them, they're going to have a whole different communication style. Who they
Yeah.
showed up as
Yeah.
on stage isn't who they are
Yeah.
backstage. And I personally
Yeah.
believe you should show up as who you are wherever you are.
Yeah.
That's the whole
You know,
that's the whole unicorn factor too. Show up
yes,
who you
no,
are
it
wherever
is.
you are. Yeah.
It is. And I think there's a place for super formal public speaking.
Mhm.
There really is. And as you said, having zero vocalized pauses sounds robotic. And probably why they do that is because they've memorized word for word the same speech. So if you go to see them 3 times, it's the exact same speech, which I never want to listen to. When I work with people on public speaking, and I work with a lot of people on public speaking, I work with the concept of a flow of ideas versus word for word speaking. I want it to be conversational and concise and clear, not perfect, because there is no perfect. And perfection is a myth. And in fact, studies have shown that if people seem too perfect, they are not likable. We
Yeah, the
reject.
phrase I use all the time is perfection is overrated.
Yeah, perfection's impossible.
It is.
It's a
What what
lot.
what seems perfect for me is not perfect for you, and vice
Right.
versa. Because
Right.
perfection is something that we make up in our head as to this is perfect. Well, it might be perfect for you, but it's not perfect for me, and vice versa, because perfection doesn't exist. It's a made up thing.
Yeah. And it leads us to incredible disappointments.
Mm.
I often talk to people, clients and students, because I do still teach. I say, strive for excellence. I really am not a fan of perfection, and strive for progress. So if I give a presentation once, I often video record myself giving presentations. And I did a presentation last week. I video recorded myself. I'm not sharing that with anyone, but I watch it and I say, I like what I did there. Oh, I might
Mhm.
change that. Right. So I can look at myself, and I mean, I'm sort of inured to being video recorded because I've been video recorded a lot. But when we can look at ourselves and we can say, you know what? I did really great for that moment in time. That was what I had. That was what I did. I celebrate that moment in time. And I also want to do something a little different next time.
Yeah. When you were saying that, all I was thinking was, when I do recordings, so like right now I'm in the middle of recording a new do it yourself course. And
Okay.
so I'm recording new modules for it.
Mm.
And I crack myself up because I know what I want to say. And for the most part, I give myself an outline, but I don't ever give myself a script because I don't want to sound robotic. So I'll give myself an outline of, oh yeah, don't forget to cover this, 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 this.
Mhm.
And then I just teach, right? And so you've been in my classes before, so you know my process. It's like it comes out. Sometimes I go off on a tangent. Well, it's a do-it-yourself course, so I try not to go off on a tangent because it's not live. And I start recording myself, and it's so funny because I just start going. And then I end up with these blooper reels, and some of them are hilarious. And
I
I'll
bet.
watch them back and go, what were you even talking about? You just had like 3 different topics in 2 seconds. What was that? And I'll catch myself doing it, and then I'll be like, you know what? That needs to be re-recorded. Let's break that up so that the
Mhm.
final one, it's not perfect because nothing's perfect.
Right, right.
However, there are things, because I don't want to confuse people either.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
when you are communicating with anybody, whether it's through a course, whether it's standing up on a stage at a networking event, that clear, concise information
Mhm.
so that people truly connect and know who you are and what you're talking about is important. Now, I
Yeah.
was one of those people. I'm going to step back 1 second and I'm going to let you
Mhm.
go through with your thought there. I was one of those people that would literally go to that networking event. I'd say who I was, and then I would throw up information on them. And I'd be
Mm.
like, "Oh my God, shut up. Just stop." And I
Mhm.
couldn't. It was like it just kept coming out, and it's like, "Stop." And I
Yeah.
know you help people. I don't do that anymore, but I know you help people with that kind of stuff to go,
Mhm.
"Okay, let's just take a step back."
Yeah. Yeah. So one of the things that I do work with people on, and I don't have anything scheduled right now, but I'm going to have an online networking workshop where I work with people on their elevator pitch. And one of the things people say to me is, well, then they don't know everything I do. And I said, well, you shouldn't, as you said, throw up on them.
Mhm.
You want to engage them and get them interested and say, huh, what else does she do? Or what does that mean? Right.
Mhm.
So if when I'm at an event right now, and I change up my elevator pitch all the time because I get bored with it. But right now, if I say to you, I meet you and I say, hi, I'm Victoria Chia. I'm the founder of Christidence Coaching. I help introverted female entrepreneurs find their authentic voice and communicate with confidence. And then you could then ask me questions. If I tell you all the things I do, I help them with public speaking, and I help them with the networking, and I help them with breathing, and I help them with using it's like blah 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 blah. I mean, you shut down. You have 7 seconds to garner somebody's attention. 7 seconds.
Yep.
And once you lose it, your chances of getting it back are pretty close to in the zero range.
Right. And that is so true. And when you're communicating, especially at a networking event, you need to understand that, and also understand that a lot of the people around, depending on the networking event, and I'm thinking in my head right now like chambers of commerce.
Mhm.
So a lot of the people know each other. So there's like the regulars that show up, and they'll come up to you. If you're the new person in the room, they'll still come up to you. And then all of a sudden you'll see them with because they see a friend over there. It's like, and it's
Mhm.
like, there's times to know when to keep talking and when to just let it go,
Yes.
and just go, okay, you know what, I've lost
Mhm.
them. Apparently one of their friends just walked in the door, and it's like, you know what, hey, why don't you go over and chat with them? I can chat with you later. It's great.
Yeah, yeah. That's another good point. Additionally, something I'd like to add to that. I was at a networking event this morning. There were 30 some odd people there.
Mhm.
Now, some of them I know already. There were a lot of new people. Now, when you are meeting a lot of new people, you've got names of the person, you've got the business name, and the elevator pitch thing. So this is too many bytes of information, right? If we know that, I read an article somewhere recently that said we get about 62,000 pieces of information a day. 62,000.
It's a
And I'm
lot.
in a network. It's a lot of it. So I'm meeting 32 people. Let's say I'm meeting 25 new people with 3 pieces of information per person. That's 75 new bytes of information in less than an hour.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
I was
Yeah. I put the human piece in. I used to feel so bad that I couldn't remember people's names. And it's just a thing with me. I'll remember your face, I'll remember the name of your company, I'll remember
Mhm,
what you do, but for the life of me, I can't remember
mhm,
your name. And I was so embarrassed by that for the longest time. And I got to the point where I was like, this is me. This is apparently a me trait. I've worked
Mhm.
on it. I've tried to remember people's name,
Yeah.
association and everything else. I'm like, try to let me
Yeah,
see if I
yeah.
can remember it. I just don't remember names. It's just one of my things. That's a me thing.
Right.
And so I got to the point where I was like, you know what? It is a me thing. So I would start walking up to people going, Chrysidin's coaching. I know Chrysidin's coaching. Remind me what your name is again. I am so bad at names and I
Right.
apologize, but I know you.
Yes.
And they laugh and it breaks the ice and all of a sudden they're like, oh my God, Regina, I can't remember you. I can't believe you forgot my name. I was like, I forget
Yeah.
everybody's name, but they don't care. But then we laugh and it's
Yeah.
like the ice is
Yeah.
broken
Yeah.
and and that connection, the know, like, and trust, instead of
Yes.
walking up and like trying to like go, all right, I'm just going to keep talking to them until maybe somebody else says their name so that I
Right,
remember it.
right, right. Well, I mean, that's your unicorn factor, right? It's
Yeah.
highlighting your quirks instead of trying to hide or be embarrassed by your quirks. I'm going to tell you my strategy for that. I walk up and I say, "Hi, you probably don't remember my name. It's Victoria Chai," because I don't remember your name either.
That is awesome. I'm going to have to start using that one. That's great.
You probably don't remember my name. And it says, "You know what? We're all human, right?" And if they say,
Exactly.
"I do remember it," I say, "Oh, you're my superhero. I don't have that superpower."
Right. Exactly. I just looked at the time and we're like out of time.
Oh,
I know, right? We could talk for hours. But I want you to like just, quickly go. We've talked a lot about the communication and it's obvious that, you are a master at communication.
thank
Why
you.
would somebody call you up? Why would somebody connect with you? And how would they connect with you
Mhm.
so that they could find out more information? So why would somebody do it and how would somebody connect with you?
Well, I think there are two reasons somebody would connect with me. One, if you'd like to get to know a little bit more about what I do and maybe learn some stuff, because I do a lot of free workshops, both online and in person. My workshop this Friday is in person. So if you're in Sarasota, join me. I'm going to be at Fin and Tonic at 12 noon. It's a fun place. I'm going to have another one next month that's going to be virtual. So if you want to find out about that and you want to learn more about that, you can contact me on Facebook or you can just email me at victoria.chai@gmail.com. Another reason that you might want to get in touch with me is because you are an introverted female entrepreneur who wants to rock your business. You want to bring it to the next level. And it's partly about feeling confident and it's also about looking confident.
Did I spell that right?
Yes, thank you.
Awesome.
You're on
And
Facebook, Victoria Chai.
so Facebook, Vitoria Chia.
Yeah. Mhm. I would love to communicate with you, contact with you, have you join me in one of my free workshops. They're a lot of fun.
Yeah, and I know because I've gone to some of your online ones and watched some of your lives that you have out there, and they're brilliant. Because they all have like little bites and little focused bites of information that help you with the communication. And so, for whoever is looking at this, if you are an introvert, even a closet introvert, some of us we try so hard to be extroverts. Deep down, we know we're introverts. I own my introvertness. Is that a word? Introvertness.
I don't know.
I own,
Introverted
yeah,
nature.
yeah. I own my introvertness, and I use it to my advantage
Yeah.
because I have built myself to a point where when I go out in public, anybody who doesn't know me would think I'm a total extrovert. I am not. As soon as
Yeah.
I get done that networking event, I need to go like take some time off and recharge. And I'm like, all right, no
Yeah.
people, nothing. I want
Yeah.
no social media. I need to like regroup here for a minute.
Yeah.
That is like an introvert trait.
Yeah.
So if you're one of those people and you're thinking, I will never be able to, I want to build my business and I'm never going to be able to go out and network because I'm just,
Mhm.
it's not me. You know what? It's a learned skill. You can learn how to do this, and Victoria can teach you how to do it. And she makes it so simple. And I love talking to you. Victoria, there's one thing I love so much about you. I don't know, and if anybody else tells you this, your voice, your tone,
Thank you.
you're so nice. I don't know how to say it. It's just,
Thank you.
I'm
That
like,
was
I could listen to you talk all day.
that's something that I didn't cultivate. I was born that way with that part, but thank you very much. That was a gift from God.
Well, I'm
So,
glad you have it. And it goes right with your business. Talk about being in your purpose and doing what you do, because it goes right along with your communication skills, is that you're able to communicate it to your audience so that they can in turn, learn from you. And like you said, it took you 35 years to get to where you are. It took me over 25. I've been working on it because I was working on it in corporate world too. So it's not just in my entrepreneur life.
mhm,
I've probably been working on this all my life.
mhm,
And, you know, those of us who have been through that are now able to help others, it
mhm.
shortens that window
Yes.
so that you don't
Yeah.
have to do 35 years of learning how to do this.
Yeah.
Victoria can definitely help you get there. So if you're like, well, you know what? I'd like to go up and do a presentation at a networking event,
Yep.
but I'll never be able to do that because I'm too scared.
I
You know
love
what?
working with people on that. I love
Victoria
it.
can help you out with that. I know you do. It's like a sweet spot. It's like, I can get you there. I will get you up in front of people. And not
Yeah.
only will you be confident, you'll remember every word you said. You won't be shaken. And
Yeah.
everybody will love whatever it is the topic is that you're teaching, because you will be right there and present. I
Yeah.
know you get people there. That's what you do. You excel at that. And
Yeah.
I'm so happy to have you in my life and my circle because of that.
And back at you because you are a wonderful, wonderful mentor and teacher.
Well, thank you for that as well. So
Thank
yeah,
you.
we are over time. So we're going to have to sign off. We're going to have Victoria back again another time, talk about all this other stuff. So thanks for joining us today on Coffee with Regina. We will see you next time. Bye for now.